Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my home. My name is Ed Marson, or as my friends affectionately call me, Cousin Ed. For about the last 8 or 10 years, we've been deep frying turkeys for people, and for ourselves, naturally. And people have been asking us, what's your recipe? How do you do this? What's your secret? Well, we decided to divulge all that tonight. We're going to make you a videotape that shows you exactly how to do this. One of the things we want you to do, we want you to be able to enjoy this, to take this to your friends, have a good time with it, and most of all, enjoy the taste of the turkey. I promise you that once you try one of these Cajun deep fried turkeys, you're probably never going to want to go back to the baked turkeys or the smoked turkeys, but that's okay too, because you'll have fun with this. People will be wanting you to do this all the time. Okay? Now what we're going to do is in a little bit, we're going to get started on this, and we're going to go to the kitchen. And then after we prepare the turkey and everything, we're going to go outside and actually show you the deep frying process and serving the turkey. Okay? If everybody's ready, let's go to the kitchen and get started. Welcome to my kitchen, folks. I promised you a trip to the kitchen, and hey, here we are. And this is a real kitchen now. This is not a prop kitchen. Now, before we get to the nitty-gritty of frying the turkey, there's some things that we need to talk about as far as safety goes, okay? Now, frying turkeys is a very fun and rewarding thing to do, but you do have to remember that there are some dangers involved. Mostly the fact that you're dealing with about 6 to 7 gallons of hot oil, 350 degrees, weighs about 35 to 40 pounds. Now, as long as you remember that one fact and dress accordingly and everything, which we're going to cover, you'll be okay. Now, what you have to remember is that you want to have certain items on hand, okay? I want you to have some safety glasses on hand because the grease has a tendency to pop up and get in your eyes and things. I want you to wear an apron and long pants and make sure that you have the appropriate shoes and things on, okay? This isn't something that you get out there in just a little t-shirt and a pair of shorts and do, because when you start dropping those turkeys down in there, that grease can get all over you and really hurt you, okay? Some of the other things you want to be sure and have around is a lid to the pot. That is one of the most important things, because if you do have a grease fire, that is the one thing that'll put it out in a heartbeat. It's just reach over there, put the lid on it, and it's a done deal. I want you also to have a fire extinguisher handy in case you do get some grease on something and it was to start a fire. The fire extinguisher would put that out. The other thing is I want you to be sure that you have a minimum of 2 adults, okay? I tried this once by myself and trust me, it doesn't work. So all the things I'm telling you not to do, I've already tried, and that's why we're going to tell you ahead of time, okay? Now, one last thing is be sure, because you're around this hot burner and everything, that you don't have loose clothing on that could catch fire. I did catch an apron on one day, and it was one of my best aprons, okay? So now I'm in another apron that I hope you all like real lot, okay? We're going to talk just a little bit about equipment, and then we're going to go to the bird preparation, okay? Now, one of the things you're going to need, and we're going to show you all the equipment in just a little bit when we go out back, is you're going to need a 300,000 to 400,000 BTU burner, okay? Needs to be a very sturdy burner because you're holding this big aluminum cast or stainless steel pot. You're holding that 35, 40 gallons of grease, and you don't want it wobbling all over the place and flapping around on you, okay? Another thing it needs to have is at least a 10-foot hose on it. Keep it away from the fire, okay? It needs to have a shut-off valve and a regulator so that you can adjust the flame. You need to have a little soapy water in a spray bottle so that you can check for leaks, because you don't want to do it, you know, the old way they go around with a match. I never have liked holding a match to 30 gallons of propane. I have a real problem with that, okay? It's much nicer to see the bubbles float in the air than it is to see the propane tank catch fire. Okay, another thing you're going to need is a timer, electronic, wind up. I prefer the electronic type, okay? You're going to need a deep fry thermometer and a way to get it in and out of the grease, okay, without sticking your fingers in there. You're going to need some injectors, such as these, for the turkey. One of the most important things you're going to need a chair and a cooler with your favorite beverage in there. Not too far away from the turkey, but not too close, and make sure, and most importantly, that the cooler is within reach so you don't have to get out of the chair so often. Okay? You're going to need a couple of extra pans, and you're going to need a couple of sets of heavy gloves, clean ones preferably, so that you can handle the turkeys. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to show you about the bird preparation. Now, I've got two birds because I prepped one last night, and I'm going to show you how to prep one today. And you really try to do them the night before, especially if you're going to use an injectable marinade. Now, if you're going to use a dry marinade, and we're going to talk about all these marinades in a little while, you can do it, you know, just a little while before you go to deep fry them, and everything will be just fine, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about bird prep. Now, of course, needless to say, first of all, you need to have the birds and to have them thawed out. Now, you want to be real careful with poultry. You want to make sure that it stays fairly cool, okay? We don't want it getting hot and the inside bacteria building up and things like that, okay? Because that won't be good for you. The bird needs to be washed and needs to be patted dry. Now, I'm going to get some paper towels because we didn't quite pat this one dry enough. Okay. Now, when you get all that moisture out of there, you can get to where you're ready to season the bird up. Okay. Now then, throw all this away so it's out of the way. That really is a trash can in there, I promise. Okay. Now, the next thing you want to do is we're going to trim up the bird a little bit. But before I forget, I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but there's a little plastic thermometer right here. They generally come with each one of the birds you get. You want to be sure and remove that because it melts instantly and it doesn't really taste that good, okay? And besides, you've got your big thermometer to tell you, you know, whether the grease is hot enough or not. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is cut off all this old excess skin and fat here, get it off of the bird, because there's no point in having it there. And we're all conscious about our caloric intake, I think is what you call that, and cholesterol. And see these giblets? You need to be sure you remove them. I didn't do it one time. I never forgot it again, okay? Somehow they just don't fry when they're inside there in this little bag, and if they did, I don't think they'd be too good. So be sure that you remove those, okay, when you cut off the rest of this old fat and stuff. Okay, I'm getting all that off of there. That'll make good soup, whatever you want to do with it. Another thing I do is I come back here, and if they haven't already removed the tail, I remove the tail, because nobody's going to eat it anyway, and it'll have a tendency to make you some more good soup if you're into turkey broths and things like that. Now then, you want to check the inside, because somewhere in there you'll find the neck, and we don't want that either. Okay, we're in good shape there now. Okay, now then, I'm going to wash my hands just a second and rinse them off, so hold on just a minute. You want to be sure and keep a nice clean working area whenever you're working with poultry. Keep your utensils clean and everything. Now, again, we're going to talk about marinades more a little later because we want to get you on the road to frying the turkey. But there's all kinds of marinades. There's dry marinades, there's wet marinades, injectable marinades. We're going to cover all those in just a little bit. Now this particular turkey, what we're going to do is we're going to inject it. And in order to do that, we're going to need a syringe. And generally the syringe will come with the injection stuff that you buy, okay? There's a lot of different varieties. This is one made by Chef Williams called Cajun Injector. And that's the one we're going to use tonight. This particular one's called Creole Butter Recipe, okay? Now then, you just shake it up real good. Be careful with these syringes because they are sharp, okay? You shake it up real good. Now, one of the things that I do is I put just a little bit more hot sauce in mine because I like hot sauce, okay? And, you know, everything you do in cooking is to taste. So if you like lots of hot sauce, put lots of hot sauce. If you don't like very much, don't put very much. Okay, you want to stir that up real good because they use a lot of powder and stuff in this injection. Now to start with, be sure you put your plunger all the way down. Don't try to pull it all the way back. And you just go in different parts. This turkey loves this part because he likes to feel good with all this stuff in there. You just put a little bit in there. Shoot him all over. Go at different angles. You don't really want to worry about injecting the wings, the middle of the wings, the wing tips, or even really the legs on the wings that much, because actually while you're cooking, those are going to actually cook too much. They're going to burn. They'll be way too dark to eat. But the breast, the thighs, and the legs, we want to be sure that we get lots of this good stuff in there. And once I get this done, of course, we're going to coat it with dry marinade that I'm going to show you, just to season it up even more. Now, you know, don't be afraid when you're doing this, after you get used to it, to try different marinades, to make your own marinade, you know, wet or dry. Everything in cooking ought to be done to taste. It ought to be done to what you like, not what I like. That way, you know, you know what your people want, and you know what your family likes. They may not like all that pepper and stuff in there. Now let's shoot some in the legs. Whoop. One thing when you're shooting this, after you've got a bunch of this juice in here, you want to be careful because you're going to get him so loaded up with juice that actually you'll hit this plunger and you'll be looking at this hole right here. You'll be shooting him in the leg and some of this will squirt out in your eyes and get all over the kitchen and stuff. Your wife won't be real happy with you. So it's just a good idea that when you're hitting the plunger, put it in real slow. Have a good time. The bird enjoys this, trust me. You're not feeling any pain. Now we got to finish the thighs. Get some down in there. You could, in all honesty, just take this bird, put some salt and pepper and some red cayenne on there, throw him in the grease, cook him, and I promise you it'd be delicious and moist. You wouldn't have a bit of problem. And I prefer red cayenne pepper over black pepper because your body cannot digest black pepper. Black pepper is just like tree bark, okay, and it's not going to do you any good whatsoever. So use red cayenne when you can because it's a whole lot better for you. Okay, we've just about got all the good stuff in here we can get. Just want to make sure if we get a little bit on the outside, that's not going to hurt anything. And we're going to put this over here out of the way. Okay, now One of the next things that we want to put on there is I like to throw a little extra garlic on there. I like garlic. I don't know how people can live without garlic in their life. It's good for you, keeps away the vampires, just like a breath mint, okay? Some of you may disagree, but you trust me on that. Now then, we're going to use some of this Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning. It happens to be one of my favorite. It's pre-made, and it consists of red cayenne, salt, pepper, probably a little sugar, garlic, things of that nature. Be sure you get some down in there. Again, don't worry about how much. It's to taste. The main thing is just make sure you get it all over it, because this is one of the things that really makes that turkey taste good, okay? Now then, you're going to get a little bit of mess going on here, but that's really not going to hurt anything. Now, one of the other things I like to do is every once in a while I like to stick a few things inside the turkey that will fry and cook along while the turkey is cooking. And some of those being fresh onions. And again, folks, that's to taste, all right? And what you do, there's no secret about this. You just stick a couple of them in there. Now, you might say, well, aren't some of those going to come out? Yes, they will, okay? That's the beauty of it. Because, see, you just happen to be sitting there with either a set of tongs or one of these little bitty baskets. It's cute, isn't it? And what you do is the onion floats up, because it's got some of this seasoning and everything on it. You scoop a few of them up and put them on paper towels and let them dry. You consume them while you're waiting for the turkey to cook, along with your favorite beverage, of course, okay? Now then, if you've done this the night before, what I want you to do is to put that turkey in a 20 or 30 gallon plastic bag, otherwise known as a garbage bag, okay? And I want you to do that because that'll keep the turkey from drying out. That'll keep all the flavors in there. And then you put it back in the refrigerator, and it'll be ready to fry the next day. Then when you get ready to fry the next day, you start preheating your grease. You just go ahead and start your grease to heating, pull your turkeys out. And you don't want them really to get to room temperature, but what you want is for them to at least take the chill off of them, okay? Now then, when we tell you to buy turkeys, we want you to do this. Number one, we don't want you to spend a lot of money on turkeys, okay? We want you to buy the cheapest turkey you can. There's no point in spending a lot of money on a turkey because you're going to make it taste good with all this stuff. So you don't need them already injected with butter or anything like that. I mean, if you buy one, that's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. But just so you'll know, you don't have to do that. Another important thing is that you want these turkeys to be 12 to 13 pounds. That's a good size for them. That's what most of the pots are made for. That's what most of your recipes are made for. And it just works the best. I had a guy bring a big old, he called me one time, he said, "Are you frying turkeys?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Do you mind if I bring a turkey over to fry?" And I said, "No, I don't have a problem. I got room for another one." This bird was so big it took two of us to get it in the pan. We like to never have gotten it out. And I think it took it an hour and a half to cook. Well, that's why you don't want to mess with the great big turkeys, okay? Now you want to preheat that grease, and you can use any kind of grease. You can use cholesterol-free peanut oil. You can use sapphire oil. You can use any kind of oil you like. It doesn't matter, okay? If you have a preference, buy what you want. Any of them is going to make it taste good. You will find that you can fry about 4 to 6 turkeys. It's going to vary according to how much of this dry seasoning you put on there, okay? Now, what happens is when you're frying this, some of the seasoning is going to fall off before it gets seared, and it'll go to the bottom And since the heat is more intense on the bottom, it will actually make the grease start turning bitter. So that's why the grease goes bad. So you just have to watch that and be aware of that. But I found that I can fry in mine about 4 to 6, okay? All right. Now, your time is not that critical, okay? The time is going to be about 3.5 to 4 minutes, per pound, which is going to be about 45 minutes to 55 minutes per turkey, okay? Now, that's not very long because y'all are used to cooking these turkeys, 4 or 5 hours. Been so long since I baked one in an oven, I couldn't tell you. I used to smoke them, and I'd smoke them for 12 to 14 hours. So I can tell you that, that's a long, long time. It's really nice to be able to sit down and fry this turkey in 45 minutes and have all those people just jumping on it, okay? Now, one thing, the way this works is when you drop that turkey in there, it sears it so fast that all the juices, all the flavor, all these marinades, everything is just locked in there immediately, okay? Now, what it does is that keeps it nice and moist inside. How many of you have ever had a really dry turkey? I mean, one somebody just cooked to death in the oven, okay? Well, you're not going to have to worry about that anymore once you learn how to do this. Now, I know there's people out there that's going, well, he hadn't said anything about salmonella. Well, let me tell you about salmonella poisoning. Generally, the people that get it is not because of the way it's cooked, it's the way the bird was handled before you got it, okay? And it's the way they handled it after they got it in the kitchen. So if you will just follow the normal precautions that you do with poultry, keep a clean area, not let it get too hot, buy from a reputable source, you're not going to have to worry about that, okay? This is not going to make you any prone to that than anything else would. Okay, now we're going to go outside in just a few minutes and we're going to show you how to actually deep fry a turkey, okay? This is the part that you've all been waiting for because this is the spectacular part. This is when everybody comes out and says, what are you doing? Because they can start smelling it, okay? And if all else fails, if you'll just make people wait for 3 or 4 hours before it's done, they'll eat anything. I had a friend, I'll tell you a little story, named Gator. He and I first started frying these together. One of Gator's biggest complaints was the fact that we never got to carve a turkey. By the time we would get him out of the grease and up on the table, and Gator would be over here, sharpening his knives, being ready to go and everything, he'd get over to the table and there wasn't anything but bare bones. That's the way people attack these turkeys, okay? They just want a little pinch, and once they get a little pinch, they want a little more, and pretty soon you got a carcass there, okay? All right, well, what we're going to do now is we're going to head outside, and we're going to deep fry a turkey, okay? Okay, folks, like I promised you, we're here in the backyard. We're going to deep fry the turkeys. That's what everybody's been waiting for. Now remember, you can see our burner. We've reinforced it with steel. It's nice and low to the ground. And what has happened here is that keeps the grease and everything way below your chest level, okay? So that when you put the turkeys in there, you don't have all that boiling grease splattering on you and stuff like that. Now what we're fixing to do is my partner Johnny Keel is going to help me, and he's going to bring the turkeys over to me, and then we're going to slowly let them down into the grease. Now remember what I told you about it's very important to get all the water, all the liquid out of that turkey, and most important of all, let these turkeys down in there slow. As you can see, we have our fire extinguisher here, we have our lid over here, and everything is ready to go, and I have my safety glasses on. I've got my timer set, and we're ready to go, okay? So we're going to just bear with us a minute. We're going to slowly let these birds in, get them to frying. 45 minutes, we're going to do a little check on them, okay? All right, Johnny. Now if you'll notice, my fryer has a basket, and I'm going to be holding it in place while Johnny sets the birds in here. And then once we get both birds in here, I'm going to let them down real slow into the grease. And that's the critical part. That's what you want to be careful of. If Johnny's over there, he's getting all the excess liquid out of them and everything, okay? Notice that Johnny's got his protective gloves on. I've got mine on. Okay, just set it right there. Hear that grease? That's how hot that is, folks. You can probably hear it in my microphone, okay? Now, and I'll just kind of let these sit here a minute, let everything calm down. Okay. Now you hear it, it's really cooking now. Now, what I'll need you to do next is after all this calms down, I want you to release those triggers so that I can, the turkeys will be okay now. All I'll need you to do is release both these triggers for me. Okay, if you'll go ahead and release them. My basket has automatic triggers on it so that I can let these down into the grease real slow. And if you'll notice, you want to be careful, not get into the fire or anything. Just let them come down in here real slow, a little bit at a time. Once you get through this, now you know you have to kind of stand back because this is going to flare up a little bit. Once you get past this part, everything will be all right. Now you can see why we tell you to wear gloves and safety glasses. Then we're going to let them down in a little bit more. Already that's smelling good. Everybody in the neighborhood's wanting to know what's going on over here. All right. And you can really see why I say have two adults here now. Now it's coming up a little bit more and I'm holding them out. I got them about halfway in so far, so you can see when I tell you to take your time about putting these in there, I really want you to take your time and be careful. Now we're fixing to get in there where we're deep frying those onions and stuff. That's what I'm waiting for. All right. And you see how Johnny's standing there? He's ready to get that lid if we need it. We can get to the fire extinguisher. We can turn the gas off. Any of those things we need to do. Now we're going to go down in a little bit more. They're about 75% of the way into the grease now. We're going down a little bit more. Okay. Everything's in there but the tail. Got to be really careful now. This is where all that safety pays. We're going in there. You really want to make sure you got those heavy glasses, heavy gloves on. Tell you what, it's hard to think when you're messing with 6 or 7 pounds of hot grease at your fingertips. All right, now. You might turn that flame down just a little bit, sir. All right, now then. Isn't this great? The hard part's done. Now, you remember what I told you about having a couple of chairs and your cooler and your favorite beverage? That's what we're talking about. Now, I'm going to go ahead and kick the timer in. I've got it set for 45 minutes, and we'll keep an eye on them because they're going to cook pretty fast. Remember what I told you about the wing tips in the middle of the wings, and maybe even the drumstick of the wings may burn. That's no big deal. Don't worry about that. You can count on losing them right off the bat, okay? Remember now, there's going to be some onions floating up here in a minute that you want to get out and put on a paper towel and maybe sprinkle a little of that Tony Chachere's on there, okay? Now, the turkey's going to start turning dark too here in a little bit, but that's normal, and believe me, that's the best part, is when that turkey skin turns nice and crisp. That's what's sealing all that stuff in there now, holding all the moisture in, okay? All right. Well, we're going to take a little break right now and rest because we've got about 45, 46 minutes to kill here. Okay? Be back soon.
And now it's time for Cousin Ed's story time.
Yes, sir. I'm going to tell y'all a little story while we're sitting here relaxing. And this is one of the things that you can do with your friends while you're trying to kill time and everything. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about why I tell you not to do certain things, okay? Once upon a time, I violated one of my main rules, which is not to do this without two adults present. And I'll tell you what happened. I had some people ask me for some fried turkeys, and I got kind of in a bind time-wise. Everybody was busy, nobody could help me. I thought, well, I've been doing this long enough that I know what to do, what not to do, everything will be all right. And it was raining, and the little house I had at the time, it didn't have much of a back porch. Matter of fact, it didn't have hardly any back porch. It was about a 4x4 area. And the people had built a little cover over it using some of that corrugated fiberglass stuff. Well, I set up everything, and I figure I can work in this confined area because I know, again, what I'm doing. I've been doing this a long time. It won't hurt anything. Now, there's a sweet little old lady lived behind me. She was older than dirt. I mean, you know, bless her heart, just as sweet as could be. And she was out on her back porch and everything. She was enjoying the rain, and she wanted to know what I was doing, and I told her I was deep frying turkeys. And she asked me, was that dangerous? And I said, no, ma'am. Oh, no, I know what I'm doing. I mean, I just stuck my foot right into it, okay? So I get out there, and instead of having a nice table because it didn't have much room, I put those two turkeys on a TV tray that was probably made somewhere around 1929. Had like coat hangers for legs. Now, that was my first mistake. Second mistake was not having two people there. Adults, that is. So I reached for one turkey, and I'm holding it in the basket like you saw me and Johnny doing. And then I reach down there to get the other turkey, and the TV tray starts collapsing. So I figure, well, this is no problem. I'll just grab the turkey real quick and throw it in the basket. Well, that was probably my, third mistake by that time? When I threw the turkey in the basket slipped out of my hand, dropped down in the pot boiled over, caught the pot on fire, caught the hose on fire, the little lady wanting to call the fire department. The corrugated shingles are starting to crackle and melt. So I quickly dropped the lid. I did have the lid, mind you, and I did have the fire extinguisher. I quickly dropped the lid on the grease, got that out. I blew the fire that was on the hose out. And then after I got that shut out, I proceeded to relight and fry my turkeys. All the time I had to convince her, please do not call the fire department, okay? Just because the top of my patio is on fire is no reason to panic. Now, so if I have told you what you consider to be a few too many rules in this tape, it is for a good reason. And I am trying to give you forgiveness for the error of my ways, okay? All right. Well, our turkey is doing pretty good. We keep a thermometer in it at all times. Ooh, we got a lot of prizes. Johnny, come help me. You need to get that plate. Let's see about getting some of these onions out of here. I thought we were going to get cheated, but now I see that we have plenty of onion coming. And you just spread those out where you can get the grease off of them. Dip them out of there. There we go. Now then, if you'll take that, sir, and then just, this is the one that's not open. Well, folks, you sprinkle a little Tony Chachere's on there, okay? All right, and then we'll devour them momentarily. Now, what we've got to do, I guess I better put my glove on first, is check the temperature, see how we're doing. Okay, and we might ought to turn it up just a little. Would you do that, sir? Just turn that flame up a little bit. And get her to boiling here. I'm gonna tell y'all one more little story, because you got to have patience, you know, while this is cooking. Many years ago, it was in December, and it was cold. I mean, the wind was blowing, it was sleeting. I was sitting in front of the fireplace in the den, and there was a knock at the door. And I'm going, you know, who on earth would be knocking at my door on a night like this? I go to the door, and this guy is standing there with a little briefcase and stuff. And he's shaking. I mean, that wind is cold. And I said, "Can I help you?" "Yes, sir." And he was selling children's books. And I normally don't succumb to things like that. But when I was trying to tell him no, that I wasn't interested, he started singing this little song. Now, I've never forgotten all of this song. I always remember this first little part. And it went like this. "Be patient, don't worry, don't be in such a hurry, remember." And after that, folks, time has taken its toll, and I don't remember. But I figured anybody who could stand out in that cold and carry a tune like that deserved to be let in the house, and needless to say, I bought the books, okay? But that's just the way it is. All right, so remember, be patient. Remember that little song. We've been cooking about 20 some odd minutes now. And let me see here. I may try to raise these up just a little bit. See how they're looking. All right, now they're gonna look real good. You see how they're starting to brown up and everything? So we're gonna put them back in there. Let them go. We're bringing our temperature up a little bit. The temperature will drop down a little bit when you drop all those turkeys in there. So you want to make it at least sure that you keep it somewhere around 300 degrees. If I could have the onion plate back, we'll dip some more onions out of here. And then we're going to take another little pause while this thing starts cooking up here. Oh, these onions are really coming out now. I probably ought to shake them turkeys some more. That way we don't get cheated out of this little deal here. It looks like all of them for right now. All right, so we're going to take a little break, and we'll probably see y'all in about another 15 minutes. I thought I'd tell you about the grease a little bit. It's pretty expensive, depending on what kind you buy. And I believe I told you you could reuse it to fry, you know, up to 4 to 6 turkeys in. And why? But one of the things you can do to even get a little bit more out of it than that is, after you finish frying this batch, if you're through for the day, what you might do is let it cool down real good, get somebody to help you, and get you some painter's funnels. And they actually act as a strainer. And dip this back into the gallon jug, okay? Or you can actually siphon it just like you would any liquid. Now, make sure, of course, it's nice and cool when you do that. And by doing that, then you can leave the last little inch and a half down there. And all the residue from the powdered spices and stuff will be in the bottom, and you can just discard that, wash your pan, and then keep your grease, and you'll be able to reuse your grease a lot of different times. Because remember what I told you, that grease, the reason that it goes bad is only through the fact that you're burning the spices on the bottom of the pan, and it actually makes the grease turn bitter, okay? Now, we've got about another 10 to 12 minutes to go on our timer here, and everything's going real smooth. And when we get through, we're going to show you what one of these looks like on a real pretty platter, so you can present it to everybody. And then you need to get out of the way, because they're going to start getting after it, and once that first one gets it, you're in trouble if you're in between them and the turkey, okay? All right, so we'll be back in about 10 minutes, show you what everything looks like.
And once again, it's time for Cousin Ed's story time.
Yeah, you're doing so good, little boy.
Tell us the story, Cousin Ed.
Well, we're having so much fun, we thought we'd tell y'all one more story. I told it to them, and they thought I ought to share it with you. So here we go. The first time that we ever fried turkeys was me and my friend Gator. And Gator kind of makes me look like a sand flea. He's so big. And we were sitting under the awning of my motorhome in my backyard. And we had this lady friend with us. And we had gotten this recipe from this Cajun man. And we were trying out our efforts at frying turkeys. Now, at that time, we didn't know that we could fry two at one time, so we were just frying them one at a time. And it took a little longer than we thought to get everything ready, and we ran out of our favorite beverage. So we asked our lady friend, would she be so kind as to go get us some more of our beverage, that she had a little bit of time before the turkeys got done. Well, I don't know if she got lost or it took too long or the turkey just got done sooner than we thought. But when it came out, you know, we tried to be gentlemen and wait till she got back, but man, that turkey just kept calling to us. It was lonely and it wanted to be ate. So anyway, it took her longer than expected, and there was nothing left but a carcass, and we decided, well, we'll hide the evidence and we'll tell her that the turkey's not through cooking and that, you know, she didn't miss anything. And she won't know that we were going to do a second turkey. Well, that was all right, but, you know, we weren't thinking too much when we hid the carcass. We just threw it in one of the paper bags that came from the grocery store, which evidently they were also throwing the cans to our favorite beverage in. And so the lady friend came back. Well, turkey ready? No, no, ma'am. No, it's in there cooking. But, you know, we've saved it. We've waited for you. Well, that was all well and good until she threw away her first beverage can, and she saw that carcass sitting in there. And after she saw that carcass in there, we were in deep trouble. So, anyway, she got first dibs on the second turkey.
Yeah,
But that's what we mean when we tell y'all that, you know, you don't worry about whether you get to carve this turkey or not, because what's going to happen, the people are just going to rip it off the bones, and that's the way it is, okay? So that was probably the last story I'm going to tell you tonight, okay?
And that would be famous last
That would be famous last words, because I am the shy, quiet, and introvert one of the group. All right, folks, that magic moment is here. You can hear the beeper going. It's time for us to take the turkeys out. Now, the same safety methods apply taking the turkeys out as putting them in. Johnny's going to lift them up. I'm going to make sure the safety latches on the basket lock. Then I'm going to remove the turkeys carefully one by one, giving the grease time to drain out and everything. You don't want to just haul them out with grease streaming all over the place, okay? So get ready, because here's the part we've been waiting for. Okay. Just lift them out and bring them all the way up. Just come on up. Okay. Now just hold them right there. Now we're going to give them a minute. That lets all the grease drain out of them. Remember now, these turkeys, they've been cooking for a while, so they're pretty warm. But you let all the grease drain out of them. Don't they look pretty? They're going to look even prettier when they get on this plate and then get to the table. Okay. Check it out here. Ooh. That thing is tender. Okay. Now then. I've got to go ahead and go. Okay. Now you see how that turkey is just falling apart? I'll guarantee you that is done, okay? All right, now. Hold on, big guy. Here we go. All righty. All right, folks. Now, if you would be so kind as to pull these rather warm gloves off. Thank you, sir. There you go. Ah! That's all right. You don't have to be fast about it. It's just hard to get them off. We're doing it, folks. The battle of the glove. All right, we got it. Now, y'all know what's left after this? See how much of this you can eat. You hear the audience in the background. Food, they're ready. See, I told you keep them waiting long enough, anything's going to look good to them. Well, folks, that's how you deep fry a turkey, and we're going to go in here now and start enjoying it. Now, the recipes for the marinades and stuff, if you will go to our website, which is Blue Dolphin Enterprises. Now I'm going to go www.bluedolphinenterprises, enterprises.com. And Blue Dolphin Enterprises is all one word. And on that website, you will find the recipe at no charge. All you have to do is copy it down or print it out of your printer, okay? Once again, we appreciate y'all being with us today. We hope that this will help you. This is, a lot of experience gone here to deep frying these things, but look at what you get when it's all done. All right? Thank you so much for being with us tonight. God bless y'all.